What's up, my fellow emo, pop punk, metalcore music lovers? Matrix here, and you are locked into the Matrix Music Review Podcast, the only place to get your scene music fix and the best place to discover your new favorite band. We are back. It is a brand new year, 2026. I hope y'all had a good holiday season. If you're in the Northeast like me, it is fucking cold out here, and I hope y'all are staying warm. This is craziness. We got negative temperatures, all these other things going on, snowstorms, blizzards, you name it, it's headed our way. It sucks, and I think at this point, I'm over winter, I'm ready for summer, I'm ready for shows, whether that's Warped Tour, other music festivals. Get me outside, get me into some music festivals with some of our favorite bands. We got a lot of good tours coming out this year already, and yeah, I'm just sick of this damn cold. I think everybody else probably is too. So, as always, the link for everything you need from me is in the description of this episode at Matrix Music Review on every social media platform, as well as over on YouTube. We got everything going on. I am very much so working on how to get you guys some other content over there on YouTube, whether that is little video essays or some extra things. Going to try to be doing this a lot more, try to be getting you guys some more frequent content, because it seems like that's what you want. It seems like you want to hear from me a little bit more than what I've been giving you lately, and I love that. That's really cool to me, so can't wait to do that for you guys this year. First episode of the year, and we are looking right into our album reviews. We've had a couple drop already this year, and I can't wait to talk about it. It's been some cool stuff coming out, and I got a couple other things I want to touch on at the end of this show. So hopefully you guys are excited. I know I am. And let's jump into it. We're going to jump right in with our album reviews, and the first one we got to talk about is Black Eye by KIDPUNK. So this is the first album from the band from the UK, and it came out at the end of December, so a little bit into 2025 here, but this is a band that I've been wanting to talk about for a little bit. They already have a new single that just dropped this week, MIB, which was great. But this album deserves some love because this is a punk album through and through. And that punk sound comes through immediately. You get really good breakdowns, you get really good vocals. And what I really appreciate about this band is that everything flows so well together. Every song is such a cohesive unit that it really produces a really strong listening experience. It really gives you that overall nostalgic feel as well. And that's really where this album hit me, was that the more that I listened to it, the more I dove deeper into this album, the more I felt and heard some of the classic sounds that I grew up with. You know, this is something straight out of the old school Blink-182, old school Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtracks that I grew up with, and I know a lot of you did as well. So that is something that really drew me to this record. And it's even got some of those more punk style lyrics too. You know, we got lines here and there where we say, you know, I watched my youth wash away, and maybe I got friends, but I don't hear from them. And, you know, my name's Sean and I'm a freak. Like, these are all things that we would have heard back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, when the pop punk renaissance or the pop punk explosion happened, whatever you want to call it. And it's nice to still hear that. When we look at songs on this record, I think Autopilot has just this energetic, summery feel to it, which in the cold of the winter really kind of is something that I'm really drawn to. You know, I'm drawn to that warmer weather, that summery feel. And that's why a lot of times you'll hear me talk about at the beginning of the year, and I don't know if it's by design or whatever, the Australian side of things, they're usually releasing a lot of their summer songs, and it's really just hitting more than, you know, some of these other songs would. And it's not just pop punk. With KIDPUNK, you also get some heavier vocals on a song like Alien, and I think that might be a direction that they may be exploring a little bit more. We definitely got a little bit of that on MIB, but I'm excited to see that. I'm excited to see what direction they're going, especially since they just dropped this album in December and we already got a new single. I'm excited to see what 2026 has to hold for KIDPUNK. So this is a really strong debut from them at the end of 25, early 26. 8.4 out of 10 for me. I'm really excited about this band. I think you guys will love them as well. So if you haven't heard it yet, go check out Black Eye by KIDPUNK. Next up, we got Faith, Love, Doubt, and Everything in Between by First and Forever. The emo sound that we fell in love with back in 2023 when I first started this podcast is back. This is First and Forever's EP release, and that emo sound comes through immediately on the title track. And the chorus blast of "Take your greed, I'll take the pain, and watch love die along the way, torn apart by sin and pride." All those lines flow perfectly together and really put us in that emo nostalgia setting. And nostalgia seems to be the word of the day today for some reason, whatever reason. You guys have already noticed that there are certain episodes that I get stuck on a word, and unfortunately, I just babble it throughout this episode. So sorry in advance. That sounds like nostalgia is going to be the one this time. But either way, it still proves the point that you can have a very short and sweet EP from a band like First and Forever, and it really reasserts their dominance. First and Forever is a band that you guys heard me talk about a lot back in 2023 and 2024 for that matter, in terms of bands that I could see taking that next step, really inserting themselves into that conversation of bands that are going to be and continue to grow and build a fan base based off of their sound. But the thing that really stands out about First and Forever is, we only had a single here and there from them last year, but the consistency is still there. Every time they're releasing something, it's consistently good. It's given us that consistent, strong pull that pulls us right back in. This is a band that I think about when I think about 408, Magnolia Park, State Champs, all of those bands that when we get a new release from them, we kind of know what to expect, and we expect it to be good. And that's what I think First and Forever has delivered here. And not only that, but they delivered this EP in a way that is one of my favorite EPs in the past few years. Like I said, short, sweet, and to the point. All 4 songs really hit and really capture that emo essence. And it was fantastic. I mean, this is a 5 out of 5 EP for me. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that this is one that's going to be played all throughout this year. And, as we're only in January, it's hard to say that it'll be one of my top EPs or on that list, but I would think it's a pretty good chance. So if you haven't heard it yet, go check out Faith, Love, Doubt, and Everything in Between by First and Forever. Next up, we got Things That I've Lost by Calling All Captains. The second official album from the Edmonton punk band, and we get a charged introduction to this band right away on their track Stay Away, and it really does showcase their style. They have some honest songwriting. They sound a little bit like that KIDPUNK record that I talked about earlier, but they rely a little bit more on their post-hardcore roots to kind of give you that full-blown influence and see what they're really all about. And I mentioned the honest songwriting. It really does something to an album when the songwriting feels honest. It almost catapults it into that next echelon where we have a record that was already good, but when we can feel the connection that the artist has to the words that they're saying, it just makes it that much better. Some of the lines I'm talking about with this is misery in my cup and I think I might throw up. I'm gonna die young, I just don't know how. And why is it a crime to love you from a distance? And for some reason, that last line, why is it a crime to love you from a distance, really hits pretty hard. It's definitely a showcase of a feeling that I feel like a lot of people have of like, why is it so bad for me to have feelings for someone from afar, even if, I'm not acting on it or if I'm not with that person? There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, for some reason, it feels like a crime. And again, this album is definitely one that's shorter, on the shorter side, which I think is okay. I think it plays to its favor. And when you get these shorter albums, it's a lot easier to go back and re-listen to them. That's one of my complaints about when we let albums get to 13, 14, 15 tracks is it makes it so much more difficult to re-listen to them because you just know that you're in for, a full hour of a re-listen. But in this case, because it's shorter, I found myself going back to it and discovering more. And the more that I listened to it, the more I liked it. And that's great. So this album's a 9 out of 10 for me, a really, really strong album from Calling All Captains. And if you haven't checked it out yet, go check out Things That I've Lost by Calling All Captains. And the last album we're going to talk about today is Severed Heart City from Greywind. Technically the first official album from the Irish emo band. Yes, we've gotten EPs in the past, and yes, we've gotten most of this album already. But this is a band that I fell in love with from the beginning when I heard their sound. There is something about Steph's voice that really pulls you in. It really makes you pay attention to every part of the song, every part of the album, and the listening experience is enhanced by that. The vocals on this are just so, so good. And emo is exactly what this sound is, especially when we talk about the lyricism. IKAMF. I Killed All My Friends is a classic emo anthem that you would have heard at any point in time in the history of emo music. And it's a very simple message. I killed all my friends. They wanted to die. And it's almost like the sound that we're getting from this band is Avril Lavigne crashing into a Against the Current album. That's really where my head goes when I hear all of this, and it's great. And it's not just all up-tempo stuff, and I think that's some of the intricacies of an album is that you get some of these lower tempo or mid-tempo songs on a song like Happy, and there's a little bit of irony to that, right? Like, you see a song called Happy, and you immediately think, okay, fuck, this is going to be up-tempo, jumping up and down, and I blame Pharrell Williams for that because every time I see a song named Happy, I'm immediately assuming that somebody has done a cover of that track. But here we are on an emo album, and the lead in, you can tell it's a little bit slower and it's a little bit more reserved. And then when you listen to it, it's all about being not happy. So there's a little bit of irony in calling a song that, and then when you have to listen to it, you hear, oh, okay, this is actually not a song about being happy. And when I looked at this album and looked at some of the production stuff behind it, the production was done by Sam Guyana. I don't know if I'm saying that right. If I'm not, somebody please correct me. But Sam has produced a lot of really strong albums lately. Color Decay by The Devil Wears Prada, the most recent self-titled album from Neck Deep, just did both of the Silverstein albums that came out. And that's a name that we need to keep on our radar. That's a name that we need to pay attention to, because if the production from those albums and this one is any indication of what we're going to continue to get in the future, that's got me really excited to keep Sam on the radar as a top level and top shelf producer in our scene. Greywind is a band that I have been waiting on a full album from. And even though we got a lot of these tracks early as singles, and even though I've heard most of them, the compilation of all the tracks together delivered beyond my highest of expectations. This album is absolutely a fantastic bridge album from whatever your friend's favorite genre is to our scene. If you have a friend that's a big pop fan, show them this album and see if you can't start pulling them towards our scene a little bit. I guarantee you they're going to love this album. There's nothing super heavy about it in terms of vocals. Steph's voice is going to draw them in immediately. And I really do think that Greywind has set themselves up for a really strong 2026, and I can't wait to see what they do with it. So 9.3 out of 10 for me. Really strong album from Greywind. If you have not heard it yet, go check out Severed Heart City by Greywind. That wraps it up for our album reviews, but I got a couple other things I want to touch on and talk about from the past couple of weeks. First off, there is a band that popped onto my radar out of nowhere, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself for not paying attention to them a little bit more. I believe their name is Gai, Gai, and if I did my research correct, it's the Vietnamese symbol for thorns. And this band, holy shit, are they good. They popped up on my new release radar with the new track Ladder Climber from their extended version of their album You Lie, which came out late last year. And Ladder Climber is going to be on the playlist, so you'll see that in the link below. But what an explosive album they released last year. Holy shit, I am so mad that I missed that and so disappointed in myself that I wasn't onto these guys sooner. I mean, this is incredible stuff. Definitely a more hardcore sound, but one that I am definitely messing with pretty heavy. So if you haven't heard them yet, go check them out. I'll link that album in the description of this episode as well, so that you can see and listen to what I'm talking about, because this has been a fantastic discovery for me. Additionally, I've been reading a little bit more. I'm usually not a big reader, but I was interested, and the girlfriend got me a copy of the Mark Hoppus memoir, and I just finished it not that long ago. What an incredible story there is to Blink-182. Not only just the music side of things, but the formation and all of the intricacies that we saw with it. You know, this is probably my second or third book that I've read from someone in our scene, kind of just going through their life and everything else. You guys will remember me talking about Derek Whibley, the lead from Sum 41's book last year. You know, Mark's book is pretty strong, and all of the stuff he went through with the cancer and everything else. It is such a good read. If you are a person that enjoys reading or just enjoys our scene, loves Blink-182, go check that book out. I think you will appreciate it. You will learn a lot about our scene and a lot about a band that has been considered a legend in our scene, and that's really cool to see. So go check that out if you are a reader, and even if you're not a reader, go check it out. I mentioned can't wait for summer at the Warped Tour at the top of this episode. I'm already looking forward to it, and pretty soon we'll be learning who the bands are that are going to be playing it. We have heard that the bands are going to be released at the end of January, beginning of February. My anticipation is that they do the same kind of rollout that they did last year, where, you know, we get 5 bands a day for however many days of the release cycle, whether it's 30, 40, whatever. I'm interested to see what kind of lineup we get this year, especially knowing that we have 2 more cities that got added in Mexico City and Montreal. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they spread these bands out, how the headliners end up coming to pass. And so I think Warped Tour last year was a success. I know I enjoyed it. I know that there's some people out there that did not. I understand that as well. But the way I'm looking at it as, when else am I going to get a chance to have the opportunity to see 90 to 100 plus of my favorite bands in one spot for a relatively reasonable price? So that's the way I'm looking at it. I can't wait for it. And you guys know, as soon as these bands start releasing, I'll be posting it on Instagram so we can keep up to date with it. And the last thing I want to talk about is the first show of the year, the first live show of the year I was able to get out to. Just this past week, I was able to catch the Don Broco tour. Opening night of the tour, I got to see Sachi 6, Dropout Kings, and Don Broco. And what a fun time that was. Sachi 6 is a band that I was very high on last year. Loved the Limerence EP and was blown away by the vocals of everyone on that stage when Sachi 6 was performing. That was one of the better live performances I've heard in a while, especially in a smaller club-type venue. They really delivered at the highest level, and super, super nice people as well. Got to, chat it up with them a little bit after their set. Super nice people, super down to earth. And if you get a chance to check out this tour, please do, because Dropout Kings' energy was absolutely unmatched until Don Broco walked on stage. And I mean, from the beginning of their set to the end, Don Broco had that place going absolutely insane. You can see why they are a pretty significant band in this scene and why people flock to them, because their songs draw you in, and then when you see them live and see the energy and the lights and the production on stage, it all just lines up to produce a really fun, really cool concert going experience. So that tour literally just started this past week. So if you get a chance, get yourself out and go see that Don Broco tour. Well worth the price of admission. All the bands were fantastic, and looking forward to getting out to some more shows this year. I got one coming up this upcoming week, and we'll talk about that next week when we get back together. Next week, we got a lot of album reviews. Definitely had some good ones come out this week. Poppy dropping a new album. We had a new little EP from Solely Veil, one of my underrated bands in the scene, and a few more that came out this past week. So looking forward to reviewing those next week with everybody. Go click the follow button on all the social medias. Go run up the streams on this episode. And stay tuned, because I will be back very soon with more episodes showing you who your new favorite band is going to be and continuing to talk about scene music, the best type of music there is. See you next time.